viewers, you're listening to Ammar and
Jalf,
live on our weekly radio and broadcast right here on Spice FM and across the globe.
we'll be talking shop quite literally, not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help, and we do help. And we've got a fantastic show lined up for you this morning, 6th of August. Can you believe it's August, Jeff?
And then it's going to be autumn, in the next 2-3 weeks, and it's that run, isn't it, to the end of the year? We'll be then talking about Christmas soon. It's crazy.
I imagine, given everything that's gone on, that people will start celebrating Christmas a lot earlier, and that we're going to see. I predict that all of the shops with all of the stock and various Christmas things that they didn't manage to utilize last year will be brought online. So I bet you by the end of this month that we're going to start seeing Christmas in the shops.
Yeah, most probably. Wouldn't surprise us if that did happen. I think there's a lot of things to make up for, but I just have this niggly feeling in the back of my mind that I think it's still have to kind of act with so much caution and plan with caution too. Whilst we need to, get away and move on from the terrible year that we have, I think all business plans should have a level of kind of versatility within it to counteract anything that might come ahead. I can't ever see, I don't know, can there be another lockdown again, Ammar? I don't know.
Yeah, I think there can. It clearly depends on the circumstance, but I wouldn't say never to anything.
Yeah.
If for example, as the Prime Minister Boris had said, once we start opening up, there's no going back. But if all of a sudden more and more people started, if we were overwhelmed truly,
but I think majority of the country is vaccinated now, though, aren't they? So if the vaccination is almost there, then why would there be a need to close the country again?
Well, because if there was a variant that came along and overwhelmed us, Jeff, then naturally, if the NHS was overwhelmed, if lots of people started dying, there's a number of factors. It wouldn't take much, because what is it? Is it health or wealth? What do you do? What do you look after? What takes priority? And admittedly, both the not just both, but all three of the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, and the Health Secretary are very much sort of promoting the wealth aspect and are focused on that, and arguably rightly so. We need to do something to make sure that people's livelihoods sustain as much as their lives, because it's really interesting, right? Because on LinkedIn, someone had posted, what's more important, health or wealth? Right? Now, everybody that I noticed replied to health and said, health is the most important.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, without health, you'd struggle enjoying your wealth. But at the opposite spectrum of that, if I am a single parent who's earning £200 a week, I've got 3 kids, let's just say, for argument's sake, my wife has left me. So my wife's left me, she's run away with somebody else. I'm on a low-skilled, low-paid sort of job. I looked after the kids while she worked. She was the professional. And I now have 3 kids of sort of the 2, 4, and 6 in age. I'm earning £200. I'm getting maybe £100 more propped up. My rent is £500-600 or whatever it is. My weekly bills or whatever it is. And I'm sat there thinking, do I turn the lights on or get a shower or have a bath, or do I feed the kids? All of a sudden, I'd give my right arm to have some money. I'd go, if I could have enough money to survive and be all right, I'd give part of my health away. Because I'm not going to enjoy, I'm not going to be able, what's the point of my health if I haven't got any wealth? So I don't think it's as clear cut as saying, is it one or the other? And asking people to choose between the two. Because there's arguments for both. And if anything, to enjoy your health, you need some wealth. And to enjoy your wealth, you need some health.
Well, it's a balance, isn't it, Ammar? But ultimately, I think the question of health has to always be kind of ahead of wealth. For the simple fact is that, let's say you have a horrible illness that comes your way, and you have all the money in the world, and you can't enjoy your wealth. Look at Steve Jobs. He had suffered from cancer for so many years. One of the richest men in the world, couldn't do anything about it, and he sadly died. But but as you said, it is a balance. It's a balancing act in life, isn't it? That is so critical. I guess for all of us, from whether it's personal or from business perspective, I think one thing that the government should try and give us is stability. Because if they give us stability and we knew what the market forces were like and what the policies were like, how long we've got this, the existing mechanics of business, for example, the VAT and A, B, C, and D, how long are we going to have all of these breaks, or some of the breaks that we have for? It just means that we can plan, and if we can plan our lives accordingly. And it's just when something gets blown out the water and tomorrow we face a very different headache, that instability is causing us great issues. So if they can give us, whether they can't guarantee much, they should somehow be able to guarantee a level of stability to all of us, and give us the chance to plan ahead. And if we can plan ahead, we can then try and plan our personal and our business lives accordingly. And ultimately, that's going to lead to a better, healthy society, isn't it?
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, it's very much a case of, if you don't know what to prepare for, how do you prepare? And how do you plan? And we've been saying this for quite some time.
Yeah, and the stability is so important. But I guess,
but how do you do that? How do you sorry, just a couple of things. We're all gonna, and it's a somber thought, right? But we're all gonna die. Sadly, some earlier than others. Sadly, some through different circumstances than others. But it's one thing you can guarantee. So personally, it's a matter of fact. Do I want to die? Probably not. Am I comfortable with dying? I think so. It is what it is. I'm more saddened at the people I'd leave behind, and and the impact on them, more than anything else. More than from a selfish point of view, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to die. Everyone has to. And I appreciate it's a very somber thought, and people don't like talking about death. It's incredible how, as people approach their later life, they become more reflective, they become more religious, they become more respective and such like. But it's just quite interesting. The reason why I say that is, of course, Steve Jobs, an incredible guy, and of course, it's sad to see him go the way that he did, and it's a huge loss, absolutely, but no different to any other loss. And actually, he left a huge legacy. He achieved so much, and primarily, Jaff, if Steve Jobs didn't make or contribute as much to the economy as he done, would we really have known about Steve Jobs?
No, of course, it was just a point. I remember someone mentioned, it was one of my sisters, look at Steve Jobs, all the money in the world, but when the health can't be repaired, you can't do anything about it.
So you should look after your health. Of course you should.
Yeah.
And you should respect it. My point isn't to dismiss health. It's my point was, you cannot simply say, is it this or is it that? Because without health, life would be rubbish. Without wealth, and I'm not talking about richness, just money to survive. Without that, life would be rubbish. So it's important for us to consider those things in isolation, as opposed to in sort of in is it one or the other. You cannot consider that. You cannot have heaven without hell. Can you? Can you?
I don't think so. It's hey, look, these are
Anyway, very interesting conversation. But coming back to your point around stability, right? The challenge is if I was a prime minister, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know whether there's going to be a new variant.
Well, I mean, they should have more than. I mean, that's the whole thing about governance, though. They have to. I mean, they knew 200 years ago the built an underground in Baker Street, wherever it was, 200 years ago, had the foresight, right, and the planning, and they have to predict things. Surely, I mean, they have to have contingencies and plan and in place, and think ahead and do the thing that is for the greater good of the people of this country. So you would expect the government to get their heads up somehow, but obviously it looks as though that this government has always been chasing their tail throughout this pandemic.
Well, I don't think that. Look, it's dead easy to point the finger, Jack, and it's dead easy to say the government should do this or they should do that, right? And it's a case of course, preparation is key. Same thing for businesses, right? So, should every single business prepare for a pandemic?
Now that we understand what a pandemic is, I think we all should have that.
So same thing for government, right? As in, how much preparation can you legitimately do? Now, arguably, of course, look, it's a bit like, look at climate change now, right, Jeff? How scary is climate change now, right? And for years, I've been receiving messages from people saying to me, it's not climate change, it's just natural. The degree of warming is 0.0000 whatever it is, and all of those things. And now you can use facts in two different ways. I could say to you that 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 cats prefer whiskers. Now, how can you legitimately say that? How can 9 out of 10 cats prefer whiskers, Jalf? Who talks to cats?
Well, no, you can put the two whiskers and whiskers together and see which one that they like more.
Okay, but actually, that's a misstating of the facts, isn't it? Because if I put like, I don't know, a samosa and some whiskers in front of a cat, what are they going to eat?
Probably the samosa.
Well, probably, and then you can say, oh, all right, the samosa was probably whatever the cats don't like, right? But my point is, statistics can be manipulated, data can be manipulated. I could say to you that, and let's dismiss the 9 out of 10. It's only because 9 out of 10 is a figure that you automatically associate with whiskers. But statistically speaking, I could say to you, 1 out of 10% of people, right, don't want to do something. That sounds like quite significant. But if I then turn it on its head and say, 9 out of 10 people want to do something, that one sounds insignificant. So all I'm saying is how you illustrate data is really interesting. We're coming on to climate change. So this week alone, we've seen all of the fires in Greece and Turkey. The birthplace of the Olympics, Jalf, is at risk, in jeopardy. The floods that we've seen across the world. This is Earth rebelling, sort of telling us that it's not happy. You're destroying me. Isn't it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think we can just look. There's this stuff happening in the face of it. I think with all things, we need to try and build our own deep understanding of what is going on, what is behind it, what is causing it. I was listening to a lady called Abby Martin, and she basically did this really big podcast, a serious one, a little movie, and she said that the biggest pollutant to the universe is, and she demonstrated, and she said it's the Pentagon, and it's all the warships, and it's all the little islands that they take over, where they're building all these, weapons and bombs and this, that, and the other, and that's the thing that causes is the biggest polluter in the world, causing the biggest harm in the world. So, I mean, people are going to say that, yeah, there's fumes, this, that, and the other, but I mean, who do you go and trust and who do you go and believe? Because the Pentagon's never going to admit that they're a big polluter in the world. So really, I think everyone's going to have their own beliefs. I think for me, I just think that if you understand it from a religious perspective, I think all religions say that towards the kind of there will be a point in time where there is going to be anarchy, and there's going to be floods, there's going to be earthquakes, there's going to be all sorts of natural tragedies that are going to happen, and things are going to be really, really bad at some point. And is it that? I'm not saying it is that. I'm just saying that's another option. That could be another argument by certain groups of people, and maybe. And all of those things are supposed to happen towards not the end time, towards the end times of the planet Earth. So that could be a legitimate argument from a religious perspective, and you can have scholars that know more than me that could come and verify that. So obviously, and beyond that, you've got the whole thing about the emissions going into the skies and factories and this, that, and the other, and cars and electric vehicles, and that's another argument. But how much pollution does that really create? But then, Ammar, when you have a look at it, the Earth itself, I mean, there's so much litter and rubbish sinking to the bottom of the oceans. I mean, surely that's having an impact on everything there. And how do you kind of manage all of that? And there's certain countries where all the litter washes onto their beaches and stuff. I mean, you know, so there's so much. Planet is such a. We should cherish our planet, and I don't think, and that can only be done with the government looking at it honestly and making some implementing some honest changes to the I don't know, I guess to the public, not changes based on ulterior motives, but genuine changes to save our planet. If they shared that and told everyone to act on it, I'm sure people would act responsibly.
Yeah. Well, you say that, Jalf, but people have been asking people to act more responsibly, right? And then the fact of the matter is, it's places like, and you're absolutely right. Allegedly, the biggest pollutants are those more growing economies, rather than places like the Pentagon. The Pentagon's only responsible for a limited amount of activity that could legitimately contribute to pollutants. The pollutants that I'm referring to come from things like fossil fuels, come from the burning of coal to generate energy. Now, energy itself is the biggest pollutant. Now, who's consuming the most energy? Well, places like China, India, all of these. I mean, look, there's 1.3 billion people in India at the minute, and the vast majority are still using traditional fuel methods, whether that's burning things to generate heat. And as a consequence of generating that heat, that's pollutants. Then it's all of the chemicals. I mean, the sea is absolutely being polluted because it's just dead easy to dump stuff in it, which is causing and impacting our ecosystem. And there's I could go on and on and on. The concern that I have is, and the concern that has been raised now, Duff, I don't know if you can remember or not, but several years ago, whilst we were at the Beacon InSpice event, I started talking about the impact of the oceans and how some countries and some parts of countries are going to be subsumed by the sea, i.e. the sea level is going to rise, right? And even certain parts of England and Europe and all of these other places and spaces across the whole world are going to be consumed by the sea because the sea level is rising. Now, that was forecasted for sort of, let's just say by the end of this century, right? So that by the year 3000. So, I know I'll not be around then. Well, I don't know. That for certain. I might be.
Oh, you never know with you, Ammar.
Artificial.
Your body. We're gonna.
Artificial.
What do you put it? You put it in. I don't know what it's called.
I'm gonna be Buck Rogers. Can you remember Buck Rogers?
Yeah. Buck Rogers, the guy with the blonde hair, the good-looking dude, and he used to always have a lady next to him that used to wear the tight clothes.
No, that was a different movie, Jeff. So Buck Rogers was from the 25th century or whatever he was.
Right.
He was frozen. I don't remember. Anyway, maybe not. So, and then he had this little robot-y thing that would go. Anyway, the reason why I talked about Buck Rogers was because he was frozen. So you can, you know, and who knows? There might be some artificial intelligence. I might be able to recreate who I am and what I am and where I am and all of those type of things. But anyway, so the impact that had been predicted to our oceans, it's now happening in the next couple of decades, Jeff.
Mm.
So in the next couple of decades, we're potentially going to see, well, right now, the ice caps in the North Pole are melting, and they're melting at such a rate that the ocean levels are rising. So Cambridge University, with various other experts, are now looking at how to try and keep the ice caps frozen and refreeze them as well. Because of the importance of that. Because without that, we're going to see more flooding. We're going to see the sea levels rise. With the sea levels rising, that's going to have more of an impact on climate. The climate is changing. There is no doubt. And look, Jeff, your point around we need to educate people and we need to explain to people, like, if I look in my office now, all of my lights are on. Do they need to be?
Yeah, well, that's the thing that we were having a discussion about that yesterday. Yeah, probably not.
Why were you having a discussion about my lights in my office?
Yeah, it's all about energy, the cost saving exercise, and along with, I think we're thinking more of a cost saving exercise as opposed to saving the environment. I think we need to really get our heads around it. But there is some conspiracy theorists that are coming up with, they're already saying that, well, look, there's going to be some major government strategic changes and they're going to use the environment as a way of restricting people's freedoms even further. And they're going to say, well, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this because we need to save the environment. And it's not actually reasons. It's not actually reasons to actually save the environment, because if you think about it, Ammar, I mean, you and I, we can do a little something, but our contribution is going to be so minimal. The biggest factors are those big companies that are causing all the issues. Now, you go and tackle them, Boris Johnson, tackle Coca-Cola and Nestle for them causing upheavals to certain cities where they are digging up the grounds and the earth and taking all the surface water to make their products and this, that, and the other. So that's damaging the environment. I think the biggest damage is the big companies, and they'll never tackle the big companies. They're just going to come in and tell the little people like us, oh, well, put your lights off and do this and don't go out and don't go on a plane and this, that, and other. But the big boys will be going in their bloody Concords and all of that around the world, and they'll have a special dispensation. So look, there needs to be fairness in how things are done. And if they tell us honestly that you need to do A, B, C, and D, this is the research, analyze it, look at it, and adhere to these principles in order for us to all make a collective effort. Of course we would do that, and of course everyone should come on board, but the government should be honest and fair.
Look, at the end of the day, whatever the motives or the motivations or the perceptions or whatever that is, at the end of the, for me, it's about doing the right thing. And you're right in that businesses, and it's big businesses. So look at, let's just use Apple or Amazon or any of these bigger businesses, all of the bigger businesses, right? They're distributing, they're shipping, they're manufacturing, they're building. I mean, the cost to the environment of building an electronic device is quite significant. The impact on the environment of building a electric car is currently 2- or 3-fold in comparison to what a petrol car does. right? So the batteries that go, because you've got to mine, you've got to create, you've got to build, and all of these type of things. So from an environmental impact point of view, in the manufacturing process, it's hard. Now, admittedly, it's the return of and on that. Now, I seen a really interesting, and I need to try and find it. A really interesting statistic on payback. So payback, or the cost of installing something and the return of that. From a financial point of view, it's limited. So the cost of sort of heat source pumps for energy, right? But in comparison to your traditional cost of a boiler or whatever it is, all of a sudden the payback on it, you don't get a payback because it doesn't last long enough. And it was a similar type of argument for offshore energy, for wind farms. Now I've got statistics, and it's improved now, admittedly, and it's the right thing, and we do need to move towards it. But I was looking at an investment because the Sweden and the Netherlands and sort of all of those areas were the leaders in offshore energy. And when you were looking at a wind mill to generate energy, the cost of it was £3 million. The forecasts, the financial forecasts, was over 25 years, right? So you costed out how much you would get back. It was based on an operational capacity of sort of it generating sort of 60–70% of energy, right? So it was working at 60–70%. And in reality, it didn't, the windmill only lasts 15 years. But you were forecasting to 25.
Yeah.
It operates at about 18% efficiency, not 60–70. So you were never, ever getting a return back.
Yeah.
From a financial point of view. So we need to just be mindful of the financial aspect of this and the impact and the return of it, because the more we drive to green, the higher our energy prices are going to increase. So from a business, going back to the start of our conversation, Jalf, as a business, how much more can you legitimately afford to
Not a penny more.
What?
Not a penny more.
Yeah. To subsidize the shift towards green.
I mean, it's going to be so tough. It's going to be. I mean, we're not even talking about the extra taxes that are going to come in, which they will come in the next, when there's a little bit more stability, then they're going to hit us with these extra taxes. And my God, I mean, when they're on our heads, I mean, I don't know how it's going to be. It's absolutely going to be survival of the fittest. I think the cost of living is going to go up incredibly.
Undoubtedly. There's no question about it.
It's going to be so difficult, so difficult moving forward. I mean, you worry about the next generation as well. You know, how they're going to get onto the property ladders, and you know, what kind of salaries are they going to earn? What kind of costs they're going to have to live with. It's going to be so tough.
Well, I mentioned to you, John, that the skills shortage is so significant now that what we're seeing is sort of businesses looking to wind down some of their operations. Everywhere you go, there is a notice now saying shortages of either supplies. I went into the co-op last week and for some bread. I got the last loaf of bread and I said to the female
Yeah.
that was stuck in the shelf. I said, "Oh, well, where's this? Where's that?" She says, "Oh, well, we were expecting a delivery yesterday. We were meant to get one today. We're hoping one comes tomorrow, but we haven't seen our regular driver for a week now."
Crazy.
This is one of the most prominent co-ops because of where it is and what they can charge. You know what I'm saying? And you just need to look around. I mean, I didn't tell you my experience, did I, Jalf? I haven't spoken about what happened to me last week. So, you know, last week was a hectic week. Last Friday, we hosted the Indian Council General. He came up especially to see us. We had a round table, and then we had hosted the rest of the Indian community, and it was a fantastic event at the army barracks, and then went up to the airport because we're building this international space station there, and immediately after that, so round about Friday, round about 4:05, I got a call, and then a couple, and I didn't recognize the number, but I was busy, and then a couple of texts saying, "I've got to isolate."
So you've got to isolate?
Yeah, it was NHS isolation team. And when I spoke to them, they were, "All right, you've been in contact with someone." I said, "Well, who? Where?" "Oh, I can't tell you that."
Yeah.
I was like, right. But it was Monday, so you have to isolate till Wednesday.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. That week, I'd had a PCR test and 2 lateral flow tests. And then the family got the message as well. So it must have been somewhere where we were. Anyway, top and bottom of it was before I knew it, we were all isolating from Friday until yesterday.
Okay.
And we'd had, during that time, I had 3 PCR tests and 3 lateral flow tests, all negative. And you just think the impact. So, you know, the wife was doing court cases and things like that, where the kids didn't go to nursery or clubs, and all of a sudden it becomes really challenging. So the impact on business and the economy is so significant.
Oh, that's the whole thing. I think from my own experience, I think the current the track and trace has been more disruptive to business than right at the start of the pandemic, where people were getting COVID itself. I mean, this has been just absolutely unbelievable, and it's just a constant. I mean, of course you're going to get pinged wherever you go, because it's just one of those things.
It's just, yeah, but this was, you know, the ping, apparently you can choose because it's guidance, but this is when they ring you and they tell you it's low, you have to stay at home.
Yeah, well, good. That's
and they rang, and then they rang every single day. They rang every day. "Oh, hello, yeah." Well, and my response, but not just once, like several times. And I was just thinking, well, what the cost of this is quite significant. And the people you speak to, they just follow a script. They're young, primarily young people who've been brought in to sit on a call, and I go, "Well, could you not tell me?" "No, we can't tell you." I says, "Well, what's to say I haven't been in contact with anybody? What's to say I've just been at home?"
Yeah.
Well, there isn't. So even if you haven't been anywhere and somebody says that they have been near you, you're then legally obliged. Anyway, you have to do the right thing. We did. it was hard. It is what it is. But I must admit, the last 4 or 5 weeks have been more painful for everybody that I've come across than any time before that. And that's a consequence of, and the reason why I made reference to that, Jeff, was going back to the supply, the drivers, the point that it's now all demand led. So people and employees are demanding sort of increases in wages, and employers are responding. If I look at some of the headline news, starter salaries rising amid candidate shortages. So job starting salaries are rising at record rates due to shortage in candidates, according to KPMG. Rising demand for staff to fill vacancies resulted in the sharpest salary inflation rate in almost 24 years of data collection, its job survey found. However, ongoing uncertainty over job security concerns caused a severe drop in candidates in July, it said. Candidate numbers fell at the second fastest rate in the survey's history. The lack of available candidates continued to decline rapidly in July, driven by concerns over job security due to the pandemic, a lack of European workers due to Brexit, and generally low unemployment rate. The BBC has approached the Home Office for comment, but in essence, it's all of this is going to drive everybody costs up even further.
Crazy, man.
How much have you been impacted by staff shortages, Jack?
Just severely. I mean, we're fortunate we have a core team that's been with us for many years. If we didn't have the core team, we'll be in trouble. But trying to build a team around the core team has just been an absolute, it's been shocking. So let me give you an example. On Monday gone, we had 9 interviews lined up, which took a good time to shortlist them and get it all done. 9 interviews. Out of 9 interviews, only 1 person turned up. And the person that turned up, we offered them a trial the next day, and they didn't turn up to the trial. And she was like a really educated, intelligent girl. And that's the kind of stuff that we have to live with. And majority of our front of house, the students, international students, a lot of them, because they've come over from the subcontinent and they want to work. So we've managed to, we're working with them and getting through the business with international students. And when the worry is, when the students go back, or when the students go back to uni in September, because some of them have actually, let's say, for example, you got students from Bristol, they're still here in the city because they haven't gone back and forth because of the pandemic and everything. So they're working in the summer, but they're going to go back to uni in September. So we need to recruit at least another 10 more people. And like I said, it's just been so challenging to recruit. And never mind chefs and stuff. I mean, that's just another ball game altogether. So we're now having to resort to go back to, we've made an application for a sponsor license. And we want to try and bring in the chefs from India.
I think the government needs to look at this urgently.
Yeah.
Then there needs to be some level of consideration.
Yeah.
And I fully respect and appreciate immigration laws and the need to sort of restrict and protect our country here. But when there are such significant skills shortages, we need to look at solutions.
I mean, the country's in big trouble in terms of that. I mean, well, they do a deal with Eastern Europeans, do a deal with certain countries from Eastern Europe, do a deal with Poland. Have a look at the countries that historically have come and added value to their economy and not taken away from their economy. And I don't want to stereotype, but from my experience, I find that those that are from Poland, they come with the right work ethic. The Lithuanian are intelligent, the Romanians maybe is not so much. And it's not stereotyping, but it's just, I'm just telling you what I see. Maybe you do a deal with Poland and get them in from Poland, or give them easier access, or do something on those lines. Because if we don't do something quick,
we need solutions.
Yeah,
is what we
definitely.
need. Is the thing. Yeah, no, without a doubt. So I think the skills shortages equally we need to look at novel, new and innovative ways of encouraging local people across the UK to have the mindset, have the will, have the want to get a job and work within the service, leisure, hospitality industries that has been propped up by international people. There has to be, Jan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only way forward. And if they made the policies really, really fast, I think we could as operators bring people in quite quickly. I think it just depends. They have to give it priority. I mean, apparently the fast track a sponsor license somewhere, if you pay them a little bit extra, it's 10 days. So we're hoping to get a sponsor license in the next couple of weeks. And then it's a matter of finding the candidates, and there's recruitment agencies kind of waiting, find the candidates and bring them on board. I don't know what the situation is, quarantine and this, that, and the other, but within a month we might be able to get some new candidates, and that would make a big difference. And if they did something likewise from Eastern Europe, they might be in a similar situation.
It's, I think because the systems and processes and the relationships already exist with Europe, I think we need to explore that more meaningfully and more expediently. We need to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no time. There's no time. If things get settled, then action needs to be taken immediately. I really hope that they are doing something. They must be fully aware of what's going on, and they need to really tackle it as a priority.
And I'm sure they will. What's happening in the town, Jalf? Are you going to the football against Norwich tomorrow?
Well, the season's not starting tomorrow. It's not Norwich. Norwich must be a friendly or something, right?
There's a game tomorrow. I was thinking about
I think it's a friendly. It's a friendly. I did something really silly because I missed the deadline for our tickets.
No.
So I lost them tickets, and we had to book some new tickets, and the tickets are not in the same place. So I'm really gutted, but I did try and call them, and there was like 60, 70 people in the queue, and I got distracted, and I went the day after they went to general sale. Anyway, it's one of those things. What can you do?
So what?
So the tickets are there, but not in the same place because they're newer tickets. So.
And is there what? As in they're in a worse place, or?
I think a few rows behind where they were, as close to it as possibly that the lady could do at that time, but it's one of those things. So I don't really know where they are. We'll have to go and see when we get there.
So they might be in Sunderland.
Yeah, I hope not. But yeah. But either way, look, it's going to be great to get the football back. But it's such a shame that the Saudis weren't allowed to take over. It would have changed our city, and I just can't. I'm still baffled by that decision by the Premier League and the government not backing the Saudis. Our city would have been one of the world's. We would have had the richest football club in the world, and imagine what we could have done with that, and imagine how the city dynamic would have changed. It's just outrageous that did not happen, and I can't believe there wasn't government intervention when the whole region would have changed. And imagine the economic benefit, Ammar. My goodness, it would have been billions of pounds.
I agree. Anyway, we've come to the end of our show. You've been listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
It's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
See you next week. Take care.